Hello and welcome to the Helios blog. My name is Helios, here for another reaction video. Today, Jordan Peterson debunks progressive students' take on bedroom fun. Let's get into it.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
So my question is, as a redeemed progressive, what is the key to empowering men in the Me Too age while maintaining healthy boundaries and strong behavioral expectations?
We've had relatively reliable birth control since 1960. Okay, that's not very long. And we underestimate the unbelievable technological triumph of birth control.
Yeah, with birth control, what has effectively happened is women now select who is born, which is crazy. It gives women a lot of power. And who do women select? Only the top 20. Only the top 20% of men.
It's the hydrogen bomb. It's
Yep.
the transistor.
Yep.
It's a major league transformation in human interaction.
That's right.
Women are now free from involuntary reproduction. That's never been the case in the entire history of the planet. Okay, we don't know exactly what to do about that. Okay, so the first idea in the 60s was, hell, let's party. And you could see why. It's like, what the rules for not engaging in promiscuous sexual intercourse seemed to have vanished.
Indeed, because the surface level problem is what? The surface level problem is pregnancy. She could get pregnant and be forced to have a child because, there you go. And so before, when women couldn't just get rid of a kid, they would be even more choosy than they already are. You'd basically need to be all but married before, having bedroom fun. And so people would, be 20 years old when they got married and have bedroom fun then and, have a family and so on. And that system worked actually quite well. So this was taken away. And now women could have bedroom fun with whoever they wanted at, quote unquote, no consequence. But that's actually not true. Because there are consequences to having bedroom fun. The consequence is oxytocin release. So when a woman has bedroom fun with a man, her body releases oxytocin, the pair bonding hormone, right? In an attempt to get her to, pair bond with the guy. So that she stays with him so they can have children together. So she then leaves the guy and goes with another guy. And when she goes with another guy, well, oxytocin is a drug just like any other, right? So the next time she gets with a new man, the body releases oxytocin, but the brain has already developed some resistance to it. So now she's pair bonded a little bit less to that second guy. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now imagine 10 men, 20 men, 30 men. Imagine. Her pair bonding will be so destroyed at a certain point that she is no longer able to enjoy any relationship. And then there's also the principle of being alpha widowed as well, which I'll explain after the shilling. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all for notifications. Drop me a donation like Hunter M, Adrian and Tom M. Just click more in the video description. Buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. And of course, go to my Patreon and subscribe. Patreon.com/theheliosblog. Alright, shilling is done. Let's continue. So alpha widow is when a girl sleeps with a guy who's her absolute ideal. She sleeps with that guy. And he meets all of her hypergamous criteria. He's better than her, stronger than her, faster than her, more charismatic, more friends, more money, better than her in every single way. To her, he's a superhero. She sleeps with him. her body wanted a pair bond so badly, right? And so it releases a ton of oxytocin. And then the guy leaves. And when the guy leaves, for the rest of her life, she's comparing every new man to that guy. And every new man is not good enough. She's an alpha widow. The more men a girl sleeps with, the higher chance of her being an alpha widow. If she's an alpha widow, you have no chance of being in a relationship with her. You will always be second best. You'll always be miserable. And that's one of the consequences to birth control. Nobody talks about it, but there it is. All right, let's continue.
So we had a couple of decades of experimentation. It's like, well, how'd that go?
Very badly.
Little hard on the family, I would say.
Indeed.
That's not so good for kids.
Indeed.
AIDS, that wasn't a plus.
Indeed.
Could have killed us all. And it mutated, particularly to take advantage of promiscuous sex, because viruses are very tricky things. So it turns out that sex is a little bit more complicated than we thought. Well, it actually turns out that it's a lot more complicated than we think. Okay, and now it's 50, 60 years later, and we're trying to sort this out. It's like, well, when is it okay to have sex? Exactly. And when is it not okay to have sex? And what does it mean that it's okay? And what does consent mean? And the answer to that is, well, we never used to have to think these things through, because the rule was don't have sex until you get married. That was the rule.
Yep, and that makes things pretty easy. And actually, marriage was a trade-off. So here's a trade-off, okay? So you get married at, let's say, 18 to 21, 22, both men and women. So at 18 to 22, a girl is in her absolute physical prime. Man is not. So the trade is, I give you my physical prime now and we have children now. You give me the rest of your life. And as I decline in value, this is from a woman's perspective, as I decline in value, you go up in value. So you get the benefits up front, I get the benefits later, right? So that's the old trade. And men got to have children, healthy children. You know, the girl was to build with the guy, you know, stay with him through sickness and in health as he, you know, gets stronger and so on. Gets stronger and fitter and all of that. And, yeah, that no longer exists. Nowadays, women's strategy is to have bedroom fun with Chad while... So the strategy now is to have bedroom fun with Chad while she's in her prime. And then later on, when she's on a decline, then she'll get married. So the man doesn't get the trade-off anymore. Now the man needs to be at his absolute apex to get married. And the girl can just sleep around until then. So women win. Right? That's the power of the birth control pill. Effectively. But at the expense of what? At the expense of losing the ability to pair bond and having a terrible marriage as a result.
Now, that isn't the rule. Okay, so what's the rule? Well, we're not having a conversation about the rule. We're waiting till someone does something that seems like it might be untoward and then mobbing them and trying to extract the rule out that way. And it's not a very effective way of doing it. You know, you want to decrease campus rape? That's easy. Get rid of alcohol.
Yep.
No one has that conversation. It's like I did my PhD work on alcohol. 50% of the people who are murdered are drunk. And 50% of the people who kill them are drunk. And almost all the date rape situations are consequences of excess intoxication. But yet there's a party culture on campuses and anything goes. And you also have this strange thing, especially on the radical left, which is unbelievably paradoxical, where absolutely every form of sexual expression imaginable is 100% permissible because sex is fine, but it's so dangerous that while you're dancing with someone at a Princeton mixer, you have to ask them 2 or 3 times if it's okay for you to continue. And that's actually the case, by the way. I'm not making that up. It's like, well, both of those things can't be true. Now, what's happening, I think, on the Me Too end of things and the affirmative consent end of things is the old sexual taboos are reasserting themselves. The idea that we can extract sex out from emotional intimacy.
Yeah, this is the thing. Women cannot do this. Women can't have bedroom fun without intimacy. That's why if a girl cheats on you, it's the absolute worst form of betrayal, because she's basically formed a whole new relationship with someone, discarded you, and had bedroom fun with a new guy. That's what a girl is doing when she's cheating on you. But when a girl is just sleeping with a guy, her body releases oxytocin to pair bond her to the guy. Women can't have bedroom fun without intimacy. Once she's opened her legs for a guy, she's signaling to her brain, this is the man I want to marry, I want to have kids with, every time you have bedroom fun, that's a marriage. That's what they say. So, there you go.
And especially emotional intimacy, I would say. Psychological intimacy, maybe even from long-term relationship, I don't believe it's a tenable idea. I don't think we can do it. And a lot of what we're seeing is the backlash against that. It's like, well, I feel used. Because one of the things that's happening on the really radical end of the anti-sexual abuse movement is the idea that, well, if you have intercourse with someone and then you regret it the next day, that's evidence that it wasn't consensual.
Yeah, that's not evidence that it wasn't consensual. That's withdrawing consent, which, by the way, guys, is why I recommend you don't ever drink before bedroom fun. And you don't ever drink before bedroom fun with a new girl, a girl that you're not sure of, because it's just far too risky. It's too dangerous. You can get accused of stuff. So we're avoiding that altogether. We're not going out and drinking before the date. We're not going out and drinking on the date. We're not going to a party and picking up girls from there. No. If you want to pick up girls, you do it in an alcohol-free environment. This way, you can't be accused of anything. All right, let's continue.
Well, it is, in a sense, evidence that it wasn't consensual, because it's evidence that you didn't bloody well think it through, right? It was good for last night, but it's not good for today. It's not very wise.
Right, and not only this, you've literally given up oxytocin for a guy that you saw for, 30 minutes on a Wednesday night? This is the problem. You're destroying your ability to pair bond with your future husband by doing this. That's the problem. You're destroying your ability to keep your child's life together in the future. That's the problem.
The question is, well, what constitutes consent? And we need to have a very serious conversation about that. Like, under what circumstances is it acceptable to give consent? But we're not mature enough to have that conversation. We want it both ways. We want to be able to do whatever we want, with whoever we want, whenever we want, with no consequences, and we want there never to be any trouble about consent. It's like, well, no. That's not going to happen.
Indeed. Especially with something as important as bedroom fun. I agree entirely.
I don't think that sex works very well outside of committed relationships.
I agree entirely.
I don't think there's any evidence that it does.
Yeah, it doesn't, in the sense that it destroys long-term relationships. It's true. It is true. Now, here's the bad part. The bad part is this. As a man, in 2023, you can't get married without understanding female nature. And you can't understand female nature without having multiple partners. But you can't have multiple partners without dipping your toes into these waters, right? Without sleeping with multiple girls and effectively alpha widowing lots of girls. And the problem with that is that it does hurt society. But again, once the pendulum swings the other way, it'll be okay, I hope. But ultimately, you need to look out for yourself. That's the sad part. You as a man, you can't be going into a marriage with having only had one girl in the past. Because if you don't understand women, you don't know that the girl you're with is actually a good girl. You don't know because you don't have the experience to know. And it's not like before. A girl could go to church, you could date her, marry her, and it turns out she has an end count of 20, and your marriage is dead. Right? She could be lying. You don't know. It's not like before. Girls are, having bedroom fun at 16, 17, 18. They have an end count of 20 by the time they're 18. You don't know if you don't have the experience to know. So you need to have the experience to know. That's the problem. Before, you could be almost certain. I'm with an 18-year-old girl. We're going to get married at 20. I'm the only guy she's ever been with. We're all good. She's not a girl that sleeps around. But nowadays, you can't know that. Because there's too many born-again girls. Church has become woke. Like, that's the problem.
There's a strong proclivity across cultures for the enforcement, social enforcement of long-term monogamy. And there's reasons for that. And I think you deviate from that at your peril. So now, if you want to deviate from that, there's all sorts of reasons to do it. And I can understand why people are interested in adventure and all of that. But, my sense also as a clinician is, you only really get to try out about 5 people in your life. You have to make a decision pretty damn quick. Like between 20 and 30, there's a lot of things to get straight. And
yeah, this is especially true for women. That's right. And if you don't, you're going to have a very bad time.
Long-term mate is usually one of them. And most of the time, people should be more careful with their sexual behavior when they're young, especially when they're drunk, than they are. And
Indeed.
I just think it's so...
Now, Jordan, what he's not getting right here is this fact. For men, you release about 1/10 the oxytocin that women release. So to have the effect that a woman would get from sleeping with 10 partners, you'd have to have 100 partners. So men can actually pair bond after quite a high end count, but women can't. So there's that to consider as well. The consequences of being promiscuous are much less high for men. But the problem is the ruining of multiple girls, right? That's the problem. Because every girl you alpha widow will have a ruined relationship later on. That's a problem to consider. That's why we had enforced monogamy, right? Because I'm sure the ancients realized this and made a rule against it, right? And now we just have to make a rule against it again. But the problem is we have, the progressive mob is responsible for the votes. Women have women are part of the vote, and men that act like these women because they think that acting like them gets them laid, and they have a great voter base. And so you can't vote the idea out to get the good ideas in because you're outvoted. That's the problem.
So interesting that all of the taboo reconstruction is coming from the radical left. It's not what you'd expect at all. You'd think it'd be the damn right-wing Christians complaining about, sexual immorality. It's like, no, it's the radical lefties. You have to have signed consent before making any physical move. And then that's so what? Really? Who thought that up? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know how awkward that would be? You're supposed to be able to do a little bit of nonverbal reading, right? I mean, that's part of romance. You ever see a movie where the 2 people who are dating exchange consent notes? Like, that doesn't happen. So it's an unrealistic solution. But I think the real solution is that despite the fact that we have reliable birth control, we're going to have to relearn what the acceptable rules of propriety are with regards to sexual relationships. One of the things I often tell my young clients is, don't do anything physically with anyone that you wouldn't talk to them about. Because if you're too damn embarrassed to talk about it, well, maybe it's a little premature in the relationship to actually do it. And then there's harm in it. There's emotional harm in it on both parties.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Let's continue with this comebacks thing. Let's see.
I think a trans woman is a real woman.
I don't really like the way those questions are formulated. I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well, I'm asking you, in your mind, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman.
No,
Why not?
because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant.
I'm interested in
There you go. That's making a biological argument. Let's continue.
people being able to have different choices and having equality of outcome.
Aha, well, so the overwhelming proportion of people who are in prisons are male. Now, do you want to equalize that, just out of curiosity? What about bricklayers? They're 99% male, and we've got about 3/4 of the population now in universities in the humanities and social sciences are female.
Yeah.
Are we going to equalize that?
No, we're only going to equalize in the direction of women.
And men work longer hours, they work more dangerous jobs, they're more likely to move, they're more likely to work outside, they're more likely to participate in jobs in the STEM fields that are scalable, they make more money for those reasons, and that's all hidden under the idea that the reason that men and women make different amounts of money is because of their gender. It's a very simplistic analysis.
Why are you...
Indeed. Yeah, that's a classic argument where they talk about the gender wage gap.
against the use of alternate pronouns?
I'm against the use of legislation to determine what words that myself and other people are required to utter.
But would you use alternate pronouns if a student asked you to?
I think I've made my position on that clear already.
Well,
yeah, so the point is, government law stating that you must speak in a certain way is tyranny. That's Jordan's perspective here.
Well, perhaps not to our audience at home who are just being introduced to this. Would you use alternate pronouns? And why not?
Because I don't believe that other people have the right to determine what language I use, especially when it's backed by punitive legislation.
That's right.
And when the words that are being required are the constructions, they're artificial constructions of people I regard as radical ideologues whose viewpoint I do not share.
Until women got full.
Yeah, so what's the principle? The principle is that the birth control pill is actually the technology that caused the change and not the radical ideologues. Interesting. And Jordan's looking up at the cameras. This is when Jordan went to have a speech, and then they're trying to silence him, which actually shows that they're against free speech, but the irony.
That's pure narcissism at work, by the way. You know, to hijack an event like this that other people put time and effort into, and to use their civility of the crowd and the civility of the organizers as an excuse to blatantly yell out your ill-informed opinions is no way to conduct a civil dialogue.
That's right. And there's a lot of people that are against you there. Again, they're taking advantage of the fact that if somebody goes to fight them, they'll have police protecting them, right? I agree with the narcissist. They only care about themselves with the narcissist argument. Okay, but not really. If you think about how wealth works, what is wealth actually for? What is it actually for? Here is what wealth is for. Are you ready? Wealth is made such that the comfort of your family can be assured. So you can have 10 children and they can grow up and have everything they need. I mean, obviously most people can't have 10 children in 2023, but you understand what I'm saying. So the wealth, although it's being maybe maneuvered by the man, isn't really only owned by the man, because it's being consumed by all of the family in the man's area. So it's not really it's like saying the man owns the pizza, right? There's a pizza with 10 slices. The kids eat 7 of them. The man eats 2. The wife eats 1. Therefore, the man owns the pizza and he's evil. No. The wealth is the pizza. It's not... That's just effectively saying it's evil that the man runs the show. That's not evil. Somebody's got to do it, and women don't want to do it, and they're less well-equipped to do it.
I would say that anybody with more than a cursory knowledge of 20th century history who dares to claim simultaneously that they have compassion for the downtrodden and that they're Marxists are revealing either an ignorance of history that's so astounding that it's actually a form of miracle or a kind of...
Yep, exactly. Read the Gulag Archipelago if you want more knowledge on that. All right. Anyway, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all for notifications. Drop me a donation like Hunter M, Adrian R, and Tom M. Buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks and go to my Patreon and subscribe. Patreon.com/theheliosblog. Share this video. Thank you so much. If you listen to the end, I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.